Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I know we have a smaller group today, but we want to thank each and every one of you for making it here. And we know it's a busy time of the year as well, and probably the nicest day since this weekend we've had. But I think everybody knows me, Cody Miller, Phillips Rooks District. I'm blessed to be working with Sandra Wick here as well, Post Rock District. We're doing a series of these meetings throughout. I know the crew was in Colby this morning, and I believe they've got some programs, same kind of a deal, tomorrow as well. So we'll get in. We've got some other upcoming programs. We'll talk about those throughout the day as well. But I know Sandra talked about if you need CCAs, if you need those credits, we'll just make sure that we get you signed up in the back. We'll certainly get you lined out with it. So if you can, just make sure that your number and everything is lined out on it. So kind of itinerary, we do have some snacks over here. If you've never been in the church before, bathrooms are down the hallway there if you need to help yourself on it throughout. So like I say, we'll keep this thing probably as low key as we go through if you have questions. But I'm going to start with a soil sampling presentation, and I know just looking around the room, probably you guys have taken as many, if not more, soil samples as Sandra and I have over the years. So probably be a repeater to some of you, but as we go through. So the first question I always ask is, doing a soil sample, what's the number one reason, or why do we soil sample? So I remember when I first started in Extension, I had a person tell me this is kind of like checking the oil in your vehicle. You don't just go out there in the morning, pour a quart of oil in, and then drive off and go. I have drove some vehicles like that. You needed to do that with, but Jared, you as well probably. So, but no, it's just like pulling that dipstick, seeing where you are at that point in time, checking that, and then knowing what you need to. So definitely determining how much the fertility status of the soil, and then should you fertilize or not, and lime. I know in this area we're getting to see more and more of that. Monitoring long-term trends, so keeping track of your levels that you have. And then of course we always get that question in season, diagnosing a problem. So it's certainly nice to be able to pull those samples, send them to the lab, kind of have a checkpoint of where we are. So we'll go through components of the soil test and fertilizer recommendations. So these are the things that make that up. So the field sampling, then we send it to the lab, interpreting the results, and then actually making the recommendations. As you see, there's a picture of Sandra out in the field taking the samples. So of all of these, what is the main source of error? Anybody, what would you think is the biggest probability for an error in the soil sampling of the four that's up there? Rowdy bunch, I tell you. Oh. Field sampling, that's right. So your samples are only as good as what you take. So, and if I always tell the producers, the people, if you're going to take the samples, make sure that you go through the right protocol. Make sure that if you're taking the time to do it, going through the cost, see what you can do to get the best results there. So, okay, so main challenges for representative soil sampling. So we have the differences here, the sampling time, where to sample, and the number of cores, and then the sampling depth, which we'll get into all of that. We'll also get into some of the tools that we use. I'm sure many of you have some nicer tools than what Sandra and I have, but Sandra's got cooler ones than we have. So when, I guess, just as a poll here, when's your favorite time? Do you have a certain time of the year that you like to pull soil samples, or is it different from crop to crop on that? So Jared, what's your favorite time of the year?
One that's nice out, not cold.
Bingo. So, we've been very blessed this winter. I mean, there's a window that we've had, obviously, up until last weekend that, boy, just driving down, and I see all different kinds of agronomists out taking samples, and, a lot of times by this time of the year, ground's froze, we can't quite do that. So definitely, certainly nice. But so here on this, our recommendation, corn, sorghum, beans, late winter to early spring, wheat before planting in the fall. And then we don't get into fertilizing as much here grass-wise, but certainly if you are, you've got the answers there with it. Okay, so how many number of cores do you collect? Do you basically just go out to the field and you know, I've done this with some of the producers, and they ask, well, how many we need? And let's just go up here, let's hit the four corners, let's grab one out of the middle, and we'll call it good. So, you know, definitely the more cores that you can get, the better your representation, the better it is. And we'll show you a chart here, but you know, we certainly recommend 15 to 20 cores is often the economic optimal for fertilizer prescription. So obviously, the more cores that you can get, the better. And we'll go on to the next slide here, and you can see here, so number of cores that we have. And as we go up over here, the confidence on that. So, you know, if you only take one number of core, obviously we're not having as good of a confidence. As you see, as we go down, we don't have near as much air. But our sweet spot, basically, that 15 to 20 samples that cores that we get. So, you know, obviously, Sandra, we say the 15 to 20 in hopes that you'll do at least you know, 10 to maybe 15, somewhere in there. So is that right, Sandra?
That's right.
But okay, so where to collect the cores, and so it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing a composite just for the field average, you know, you can break that down into zones, account for management practices as well as soil types. And then if you're doing variable rate, you know, you can get into the grid sampling, certainly pros and cons of each, and then consider the economics of it as well. So we'll get into stratification, and are you seeing much in your soil samples that you're taking? I know since we've been long-term no-till in the area, boy, that top 2-4 inches, we're starting to see some stratification, and I'm sure Lucas and Peter will talk to some of that. But you know, sampling depth-wise, I think this is kind of interesting, and we'll get into the sampling depth. But for our lab, and I know Peter is the in charge of the soil testing lab, with Dorovar being the acting department head. So we appreciate Peter stepping up and doing that here. But for the K-State lab, and then I think it's important, whatever lab that you're submitting these samples to, find out what they're calibrated at. So obviously for phosphorus pH, you know, we certainly recommend that 0 to 6 inch. And the reason why, as you look here, the deeper that you go, the more diluted, or excuse me, the deeper you go, the lower that number can certainly be. So if you are, you know, that lab's calibrated to your 6-inch depth, it's very important that you know exactly where you are. You can certainly have some misleading numbers if you go to the others. So obviously, as we get into the profile, nitrates and chloride and so on and so forth, you know, we certainly recommend that 24-inch sample. Totally understand that sometimes, Sandra and I were talking before the program started, sometimes that definitely can be a challenge to get to that. So, okay.
Interject one thing on that slide. If you are in an NRCS program, NRCS follows the K-State recommendations, and so if you're using another provider that, say, takes an 8-inch sample, you need to tell them that you're participating in an NRCS program and request that they sample to 6 inches and give you a 6-inch value for compliance with USDA programs.
Okay, so know what program you're doing, and make sure that you're in compliance with it. So, okay, all right, thank you, Peter. Oh. Okay, so again, where most of you have done this, some of the basic tools that we have, soil probe, plastic bucket, sampling bags. We'll just go through a couple of those. Sandra's got some cooler tools here. I guess when you guys use, what do you use? Do you just use the probe? You got one mounted on the vehicle, or what do you use? Foot probe. Okay, all right. Jared, what do you got? Bucket and the probe, so you bet, absolutely. But we don't have one of these in the Phillips Rooks district. I know Sandra does post-rock, but definitely I think pretty cool, especially in the harder soils that we encounter, to get down to that sampling. Obviously, here's some of the other ones that we have. This is the probe that I use. We've went in here and we've marked on it where the 24-inch, and if we can get to that, we certainly like to. Sometimes it certainly doesn't work. I know we always get the question of, and I know many of you have heard this before, if you're in the soil and you need to hit it with WD-40, PAM, anything like that, you can certainly do that. We've done research that shows that that does not affect the results of those. This one Sandra has got the neat little foot probe on it as well. So, and then obviously our soil bags that we can submit this, and I know Sandra always says this, it's got the fill to the line here. Sandra always recommends that you get that thing as full as you can, but definitely just a few of the tools that we have on it. Okay, and here's the picture of Sandra's husband, Don. This actually is a video, but we don't have the capabilities of playing that video here for you on it. So, okay, so we went out and we've done our sample. Now what? So, I always love this story here, avoiding the contamination with dirty buckets. Used to be a Southwest area agronomist specialist that we had. He always talked about when he was in grad school, he worked in the soils lab, and he said they got the sample in, he went to dump it out of the bag, and you could just see livestock mineral on the soil. So he said instantly, they ran that, but it came back off the charts. He called the person. He said, well, yeah, I used my galvanized bucket that I feed livestock with. So don't be that person, all right? Make sure that you've got a good clean bucket. Never oven dry it. We recommend that as soon as you take that sample, try to get it to the lab as quickly as possible. If not, we'll show you why. So here's two charts here with the handling and effect on nitrogen test after. So, let's just say that we take this and we have the sample and the truck cargo box, but we leave it on the dash of the pickup, and you can see days after sampling the nitrogen, you send that in, it's not going to be accurate, okay? So take home message, get it sampled, get it to the lab as quickly as possible. Again, you're going through the effort of pulling those samples, submitting it, make sure that you make sure it's as accurate as possible. Okay, so we always get the question, how often should we sample? And I think a lot of that depends on what your goal is. If you're just wanting to check that every so often to see where you are, you apply this, what your yield was, and you're pulling that. I think, especially right now with our times of our input prices that are the prices they are, as well as our commodity prices, boy, if we can cut down on some of these rates, definitely would certainly help out. But routine fertility, 2 to 4 years every rotation. I know I've worked with some producers that have the yield monitors, and they're kind of going off of pull that and then watch their yield monitors and then try to match things up with it. But I think this is a neat chart. Barney was over at the Scandia where Scott is here now for many, many years. And I just think this is a neat deal. Even though it's old, goes to 2005, but we can certainly see with phosphorus, applying 30 pounds of phosphorus, it starts to taper off. But otherwise, we're mining the soil. But I think take home message, boy, if we could start out at 80 parts per million phosphate levels, we certainly would like that. But so summary, pros and cons, proper sampling depth in the field. So the appropriate number of subsamples, again, if we can shoot for that 15 to 20, and especially if you can break that up into soil types. Consistent sample depth, same thing there. Again, K-State's lab, 0 to 6 inches for our top sample. And then if we can do another one, 0 to 24 inches for that other one there. So then again, proper handling after collection, attention to detail, and provide detailed information to allow for good fertilizer recommendations. So, but how many of you, and I see this quite often, people always call in and they say, man, we got our results back and boy, our organic matter just went through the roof. And so my question always to them is, well, how are you taking your sample? And well, we're just going out and just going right down through everything. So, I was always taught when you go out, make sure that you kick that over and you're getting the soil, not that organic matter on top. But